Today's guest is investigative journalist James Lee. We're going to go deep on California policy scandals, from waste and fraud to the perverse incentives behind them, and the dangerous health cover-ups that shape what the public is told. We're also going to address controversy around my decision to leave Hertag, what happened, what I learned, and close with an open, good faith dialogue on Gaza, the human toll, the information war, and how to disagree without dehumanizing. Here we go. Keeping it real with Jillian Michaels. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Jillian.
I'm so excited to sit with you. I just think you're fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you. It really means a lot for you to say that. I was, there's a lot of people on I don't know, because we just talked yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And just by...
On your show?
Yeah. And my co-host, Danny, called me this morning and she was like, how's your mental health?
Oh, no.
I was like, it's good.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's fine.
No.
So I was like, what's up? She's like, you're getting dragged for talking to Jillian Michaels. I'm like,
gosh,
I don't care.
You
don't
poor
care.
thing. It's the Israel thing.
It's just merely saying, hey, how could you even speak to somebody like that? I'm like, why not? I want to understand where she's coming from.
Speak to someone like that. Good
and that way
you.
I can...
How's your mental health?
Well, my mental health is great. So that way I can, figure out how to get my message to be more effective, right? How do I speak to somebody who is on the other side? That's the whole point of...
We're not on the other side
sharpening
about...
argument. Yeah.
Probably, I don't know, maybe 50% of it?
I think we have a lot more agreement than disagreement.
Well, I love your work.
Yeah, thank you.
And, of course, I don't even know that I would necessarily disagree with the vast majority of the things that you explore and discuss. I just, like if we're talking about Gaza, for example, this is just an area that I have made very clear I'm not an expert in. And certain people, I'm not speaking about you, only present one side of the story, and I worry about that. And I see narratives of anti-Semitism on the rise. I worry about that. But I don't know. I don't think there's really much you could say that would throw me off. Try it.
No,
pick something.
No.
Pick something. Let's try.
That's not me. Well, because so the name of my channel is 5149, right? And people always ask me, what does that mean, 5149? Well, I say there's a number of different meanings. It was given to me by a friend in college who says, man, you kind of just say stuff just off the cuff. 51% of people probably think it's fine and agree with you, but 49% extremely offended. And so that's what I try to do with the stuff that I make is I try to find issues that at least 51% of the people can agree on. Like, this is the direction where we need to go. I'm looking for that 50% plus one solution.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what democracy is all about. It's like, hey, can we get to 50%, get more than half the people on board, and then try to make it work for everybody?
Do you think that over 50% of us want the same things? We just have super different ideas about how to get there.
I think 90% of us want 90% of the same things. And then there's 10% where they magnify and amplify those differences to then get us to not focus on the 80 to 90% that we agree on. That's just, I think everybody knows this.
I agree with you.
Right? And I think it's becoming more and more apparent as time goes on with more information out there. People realize, wow, we're coming together. I don't know if you've ever spoken to...
You think we're coming together?
I think we are coming together.
Not feeling that, James. I would like that.
That's the optimism that drives me to do the stuff that I do every day, right? If you're 100% nihilistic and saying it's all gone to shit, then why, then I don't need to get out of bed in the morning. I just wallow, That's that's the hope that keeps me going every single day and working, harder than I ever have.
Before we get into some of the amazing things that you investigate, from California craziness and fraud with homelessness, fire, conspiracies that end up being true,
right,
and crazy Maha health stuff nobody ever thought about, like toxic tampon. There is so much that you are investigating, and it's absolutely fantastic work, and you're able to educate people on things in a matter of minutes, and you do it so clearly and concisely. And I want to get into all of that and all of the stuff that you cover. I almost said fun stuff, which is arguably...
Well, I try to make it somewhat entertaining.
You make it entertaining. But the idea that othering is on purpose, we talked about on your show, and I want to talk about it a little bit here. What do you think is behind the media, politicians, getting into the us versus them game? Why do you think this is happening? And what do you think is going on while we're all fighting with each other?
Well, I think it's happening because it serves their interests, right? It's the very popular, everybody knows the adage, right? Divide and conquer.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what's happening since the beginning of time, right? I think it's becoming more apparent because we have alternative channels of information that's getting out there that's explaining this to people. And what they want to do, because I think the major problem in our government right now is that it's one with corporations. That's the biggest problem. And that's the stuff that drives a lot of my content, is looking into this kind of corporate corruption, collusion with the government. And it's a lot easier to do that. It's a lot easier for big pharma to do their thing if people aren't really talking about it, if they're worrying about various culture war issues that are going on, right? Then you can't unite on saying, hey, whatever, the opioid crisis that's happened and that's wrecked a lot of America, or vaccines, or all of these things, they try to make it a cultural issue, right? Because vaccines, to me, is not really a cultural issue. It's a scientific medical situation, right?
It's insane.
And
it's
we
insane.
should be able to look at it. We should be able to say, hey, is this vaccine appropriate at this particular time?
Right.
And that shouldn't
Has
make
the schedule gotten too aggressive?
Right.
Does a newborn really need hepatitis B? What are these adjuvants in these vaccines, like aluminum? Do we need these things? Are there safer alternatives?
And that makes you, if you just say that, then all of a sudden you're an anti-vaxxer. That's a pejorative that's placed on you.
Completely.
And now you're a crazy kook and you're not trustworthy. Bye-bye. Exactly.
Yep. That's, man, I have all those pejoratives now. I've amassed quite a few, which is probably why you got dragged just for talking to me. But that's also part of it, right? It's like, hold on.
Well, that means maybe you're saying something valuable, right? If there's people out there to demonize you, that means you are pushing against something that there's a barrier that they don't want you to cross.
It's so true. And it's almost like China's social credit score of, don't talk to Jillian Michaels or your social credit score is going to go down. If you associate with the people that dared to say the unthinkable, that which should not be spoken out loud, you shall be punished. And people fear it as they should. It's like, okay, well, now you get death threats. Is it worth it? You got to decide, how real are they? At this point, I'm not taking them quite seriously. But on top of that, the second level to that is, now we're going to shun you. We're going to punish you. We're going to silence your channel and suppress it. And this is how you make your living. It's really crazy, crazy stuff.
And that's horrible. For death threats for what? I mean, that's...
I don't know, really.
Insane.
Here's what I think. Death threats for what people believe to be evil.
Yeah.
Evil. And when you're told repeatedly by what seems like a credible source that someone is evil, we're only so...
Right. And I assume this is probably in relation to some of the stuff that you speak out about Israel, Gaza, and then you
I don't even speak out about Israel and Gaza. Have you ever seen me speak out about it?
Well,
honestly,
you've been on platforms where the conversation obviously has been happening.
But what have I said about it?
You've talked about the rise in anti-Semitism.
Okay,
you've talked
agreed.
about how
Israel
is an ally of America. I think you more or less, like, you understand the humanitarian crisis
completely,
but then you also say, hey, there's a little bit of nuance to this conversation.
Completely. and I am not an expert in it, and I have no business pontificating on it. And it's when I am.
But so if you
hit me.
You know what the thing about the death threats that I try to explain, because I think for the pro-Palestine people, I do believe that they're coming from a good place and saying, hey, we want to free these people that have been under this oppression. And now they're using some violence to justify, let's say, against you.
That's the irony. You're against violence, but you're threatening violence.
Right. And I say this is exactly, if you want to use that same argument, this is exactly the argument that Israel uses to dehumanize Palestinians, to say that these people are not good. It's better if we get rid of them. The world will be more free. And then they're doing that against you. It's like, hey, same for Charlie Kirk,
this,
right?
Though? Here would be my argument. And yes, I agree.
Right?
Same
they're
for Charlie
saying, hey,
Kirk.
the world would be better off without Charlie Kirk. You're doing the exact same things,
Had
except
so
for a
much to
different
talk to you
issue.
about, and we are going to get to it. But maybe this is equally as important. Here would be my question. Nobody is going to see what's happening in Gaza and be like, yeah, I've yet to meet the person. Even the people that are Israeli are like, we don't want this. Nobody wants this. By the way, I'm 70% Arab. So there's, just to be clear, Syrian and Lebanese.
Yeah.
I know, I have an Arabic tattoo. But my point is, nobody wants this. But when it's like, look what they're doing. But then where is the part about, what about Hamas's charter of death to all Jews and from the river to the sea? Like, where is the equal concern?
So I think there is concern there, and I think the people who really know it even more than I know it.
I don't know it.
They will point out that, well, Hamas was funded by Israel. Netanyahu funded it. And that would be the counter argument to say,
okay,
if you look at the wider
this is what I mean when I say I'm not an expert. I couldn't even begin to push back on you because that's the first time I've heard that.
Right. So then that's, if you understand the context, if you talk to a Dave Smith, he'll educate you on that kind of thing. It's like, hey, have you looked into
twice, but that didn't come up.
The historical context of Hamas is that they were propped up by the Israeli government to create this kind of terrorist organization on the other side to say, we can't deal with these people, versus the Palestinian Authority, which is a much more pacifist type of government.
A conspiracy theory, or is that...
No, this has been proven in mainstream reporting, like not just the fringe reporters. This is widely documented.
See, James, I don't know that stuff. And I will happily sit here and let you tell me that stuff. Where I take umbrage is when, okay, we can have this, all right, we can have this conversation, but we're not saying, I don't think we should celebrate people who praise the Al-Aqsa flood, who say from the river to the sea means death to all Jews. Like, can we not condemn that as well? Death to all Jews is all Jews. Nobody wants death for Palestinians. Nobody wants death for all Jews. How do we get, this is where I'm like, okay.
Right.
Come on, team. Is there...
Right. And for me, it's like, let's try to figure out a solution for peace, right? So then when things happen that are against peace, for example, Trump is talking about, we need to do a ceasefire deal. We need to release the hostages.
Right.
And then you have the hostage negotiators going to meet up and then they get bombed. That's not going to solve any issues.
Of course.
Right.
Agree.
And that's the kind of stuff that I try. So like when I speak about these things, I try to make it universalist in order to try to appeal to as many people as possible, to say this is beyond just a human rights issue. There's things that are just wrong.
Of course.
And we need to just acknowledge those things and get on the same page
and you know
that.
what?
And like, for example, the river to the sea, right? That one side takes it as an annihilation of all Jews.
For sure.
But then that same phrase, if you go, I think it's still there. I'm not 100% sure because I haven't checked in a while, but Netanyahu's son on Instagram, that is his line.
The Likud party charter.
No,
for the Greater Israel Project?
No, just on his Instagram. You know how you have the little bio line on Instagram?
Okay.
His says, from the river to the sea.
Meaning we're going to take the whole thing over. But I can condemn both.
Yeah.
I'm asking for condemnation of both. That's what I'm asking for. Of anybody who says we're taking the whole thing, that should not be cool. That's what I'm saying. That should not be okay. Why are we dismissing all of these horrors that occur against Coptic people, against Christian people in the region, against the Druze? Like, right. Somehow you don't see it. It's just the evil Jews. That's when I'm like, I think you might be getting ideologically captured here. Where is your ability to see fault in all of this madness?
And I think that's the difference between, I would say, maybe like a journalist, which is, even though sometimes I try to, I'm obviously biased, but as a journalist, what you're trying to do is document, versus an activist, who are people out there trying to achieve a certain outcome. So I think that's where a lot of the more radical positions come from. It's people who are doing activism and saying we need to achieve this, regardless of what other byproduct side effects there might be, versus somebody who I see myself as just, I'm trying to put information out in the world so people can make better decisions for themselves.
Of course.
And so I'm not out there on the street.
This, by the way, is not a critique of you. I'm not saying, why don't you do that?
And I'm just trying to talk about the differences. I think where
I thought we were pussyfooting around each other, despite the fact that I think we could both handle a more intense conversation. I'm not biased. I think it's awful, period. I have both ethnicities in my blood. And that's where I can honestly say there's a lack of knowledge, which ding, 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 which is why when I say this is not a debate, let's say, for example, by the way, I've had a million of them. Generally, they're supposed to be interviews. If you pull me into a segment about something, I'm going to tell you I'm not an expert. But if you've got one person just making an entire case for something and there's no one on the other side, I feel that's a bit irresponsible if I'm a part of that. But I'm always willing to learn more. When there is something, and you and I talked about this, like what happened on Her Take. And James, to be fair, your channel, you're like, there was this conspiracy theory. Turns out, guys, facts have changed. Okay, you made that video about Israel and Charlie Kirk's assassination saying, hey, new information. Here's the guy. This is what we know so far. We did the girls on Her Take insisted upon doing a segment about Israel and Charlie Kirk a week later, at least.
I don't know how often you guys shoot, so maybe that's the time you guys are getting around to it. I don't know the schedule, but
for me, my concern is this is largely debunked. So you've got Andrew Colvett, his business partner, saying no knowledge of anybody offering him $150 million. You got Alex Clark, who knew him so well, no knowledge of $150 million. Bill Ackman's like, I've got receipts if you want them. This is not true. So now you've got people coming forward saying, I've got receipts, I've got intimate knowledge. The Israel attacked Charlie Kirk thing, no, there's no evidence here. You've got 3 people who say, yeah, there's no evidence here. Well, then why are you doing the story if not to do what you did, was say, hey, Andrew, here's the guy. He turned himself in. Here's what we know so far.
And for the record, I think there's some fishy things going on with the guy, right?
I totally hear
all
you.
kinds of weird evidence being
put into the
see all
that
sphere.
Weird stuff, like where the gap between firing the bullet and the bullet hitting him in the neck.
The text messages,
yes.
The size of the bullet, from what I understand from people who really know guns, they're like, this is a massive bullet. It's like this big.
Right.
You would basically blow your head off.
I've heard this. Okay.
Right? So there's a lot of evidence that doesn't add up.
But does it lead to Israel? Is there any evidence that says it leads to Israel?
I think it's a separate I think Israel is a separate conversation in terms of, do they have too much influence in American politics, in American media? I think that is a separate conversation versus like, did they hire a Mossad agent to take him out? Right? And that's, I think, there's a conflation of the topic when we're talking about Charlie Kirk. Because one thing is like did Israel hire a hitman to do this, versus like, hey, it seemed like he was having some tough conversations with his donors at Turning Point. And, Colvett did acknowledge, like, hey, we lost some donors because
he said very few of them were actually Jewish.
For platforming Tucker and Dave
but he
Smith.
said of the donors we lost, a lot of them weren't even Jewish.
Well, there's a lot of Christian Zionists that also, like the evangelical Christians, are also very supportive of Israel.
Okay.
Yeah.
But so if we were to game this out together,
mm-hmm.
and if you're going to take out somebody who is, against Israel, wouldn't that be Tucker? Wouldn't that be Candace? Charlie was one of their biggest advocates. I'm saying
he was one of the biggest. So, like, if I were to entertain that case, which I have, is that Charlie's organization is much more powerful than Tucker and Candace, because Charlie has not just a media arm, but he has a ground game operation to drive out the vote. Turning Point is like responsible for under 30 voter turnout for the Republican Party. So if he were to drive it in an anti-Israel position,
is against Israel.
And they don't want, that's not good for Israel, right? Because if everybody is, at some point, I think the politicians will react, hopefully, to the American public and say, we want to go in a different direction here. And that wouldn't be good, because we do arm, 80, 90, I don't know what the number is, but their operations relies on U.S.,
funding.
Funding.
And a person who knows more would explain to you the fact that they're the only democracy over there. I've heard the arguments, so I'm going to do my best. But as I said, I am not equipped to have this conversation, but I'll try.
Right.
Just for the sake of being responsible. They're the only democracy in that part of the world. We share technology and information. They're fighting a radical Islam, not the vast majority of Muslims who would not kill a fly kind of a thing. There is a radical extremist element there that exists, radical left, radical right, radical Muslims, radical everything of any kind of ideology. There's a radical wing. They're taking that head on. They're doing, the dirty work over there that needs to be done. That would be kind of the argument. And then I would simply say, do you realize Qatar funds more stuff here than Israel by a long shot? And there's a great article about it, how Qatar bought America. Where's the outrage?
Well, that's from Barry Weiss's Free Press.
But it checks out.
I haven't gone deeply. I think
go deeply.
I will go deeply into that.
You'll find that it's solid.
And I think the pushback from the other side would be, well, Qatar does not have a lobbying apparatus similar to Israel. They're much more nascent in their. I think Qatar has funded like universities. I've seen
they fund politicians. They fund advertising campaigns,
and they have to register.
Universities.
So then you have to know where the money is coming from. Versus Israel, because they're not required to register as a foreign lobby, the money is much more.
What if we just said no foreign lobbies?
I think a lot of people would love that.
Okay, but then do you see how it's not just Israel bad? That's
correct.
That is what I'm asking for, is some fairness. And my concern is just like, well, Israel does. Qatar does it more. Nobody has anything to say about that. That's the part where, and as I said, I don't have a dog in this fight. Fall is in full swing, and it's the perfect time to refresh your wardrobe with pieces that feel just as good as they look. And this is why I am obsessed with Quince. They make it easy to look polished, stay warm, and save big without ever compromising on quality. Quince has all the elevated essentials for fall. 100% Mongolian cashmere starting at just $50. Washable silk tops and skirts. Perfectly tailored denim. Honestly, the prices feel too good to be true. I mean, right now I'm loving their wool coats. They look totally designer but cost a fraction of the price. And the quality, I mean, it's just as good, if not better. And here's how they do it. Quince partners directly with ethical top-tier factories, and they cut out the middlemen. And that means that you get luxury quality pieces at half the price of similar brands. So again, for me, my go-to has got to be the wool coats. Are the cashmere sweaters are fantastic. I mean, keep it classic and cozy this fall with long-lasting staples from Quince. Just go to quince.com/Jillian for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns, which is bananas. That's quince.com/Jillian, QUINCE.com/Jillian to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Jillian. I mean, a crew neck, a coat, make it your staple for fall. I find myself reaching for it again and again. So if you're ready for a smart, stylish, effortless wardrobe, guys, upgrade and check out Quince. Active Skin Repair utilizes a molecule called hypochlorous acid. Now, when you apply it to the skin, the molecule works by mimicking the natural immune response to cleanse, soothe irritation, reduce inflammation, and support healing. Active Skin Repair can be used to treat a wide range of skin issues, including cuts, scrapes, burns, sunburns, diaper rashes, and other types of skin damage. And it's also safe and non-toxic, making it suitable for use on all skin types, all parts of the body, and you can even use it on rosacea, eczema, and acne-prone skin. With over 500,000 happy customers, thousands of 5-star reviews, and ingredients so safe and clean they can be used by the youngest member of the family to the oldest, you now have one simple solution for all of your family's skin health needs. So visit ActiveSkinRepair.com to learn more about Active Skin Repair and to get 20% off your order. Use the code Jillian. Again, that's ActiveSkinRepair.com and the code is Jillian.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to look at this objectively, and I haven't seen a case of like Qatar, funding primary campaigns. Well, they fund Hamas, but like there are primary campaigns in America just for the Israel issue. For example, John Ossoff, I don't know if you are familiar with him. He's the senator of Georgia, and he's a Democrat, and he's Jewish, and he's very pro-Israel. But one time he voted against one specific bill of one weapon shipment to Israel. and the entire Democratic coalition group of Zionists, some group, I can't remember the name of that, they said, well, we should actually probably go with Kemp. We should go with the Republican. We're going to support him in the next election because he's going to be more pro-Israel. So I think that's the stuff that makes people uncomfortable.
But Qatar does the same thing. They fund politicians.
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that kind of influence. We should, if
okay,
I don't want to get into it.
I will, and we'll fact. I could do it now because we can cut through this. Hold on, but the okay. So hold on a second. Let me actually look. We'll cut through this in a minute.
No worries. But I think that's what makes people uncomfortable is these examples when they're like single issue.
Okay, hang on. So we have, in a few decades, Qatar's GDP grew exponentially. Today, it's over $200 billion. Qatar hosts the main air base for American forces in the Middle East, the World Cup, and it's embarking on a series of business and military deals with the U.S. is earmarked at $1.2 trillion. Okay.
So they are also, by the way, a U.S. ally, a very important U.S. ally. We have bases all over Qatar.
Israel.
So they're both allies.
This is what I'm saying, though. In the past 15 years, Qatar has developed a sophisticated apparatus to embed itself into American society in a way that would shock most Americans. They've done it by investing in our politicians, our universities, our newsrooms, our think tanks, our lobbying firms, and our corporations on an unprecedented scale. In all, the tiny Gulf nation has spent almost $100 billion to establish this influence.
That is not good. That is not good.
Look at us having this moment. So I would simply say, or I have so many, I can't close this, all my notes for you on other topics. So I would simply say, and I don't think any foreign country should have influence.
Or any lobbies, because that's, if we were to universalize this conversation, that's kind of the weakness of America is that money can basically buy policy.
100%.
Right? So you have foreign governments trying to influence American policy. We have corporations influencing American politicians. A lot of people talk about that should be separate. We shouldn't have this kind of ability to say, I have $1 billion. I'm going to give it to you. You're going to run for office. And here's what you're going to give me in return. Right? That's what's happening.
You're 100% right. So then my only position to the people that are anti-Israel is okay, you don't want to pay I got it. But where's your outrage about everybody else? And that's when you get into the question of why is it only the Jews? And I'm not saying you as in me. The people I've interviewed on that side are like, funny, you're not outraged about that genocide. You're not outraged about that genocide. What about the Druze? What about the Coptics? What about the Christians? Nothing, not a peep. How come you're not pissed about Qatar? And that's when I kind of go, well, I don't know. That's not good. And I also wonder, just as like a bystander of all of this, right? Do you see a rise in anti-Semitism, period?
There's a rise in anti-Semitism. And the question is, how do you solve that problem? Do you do it by censorship and clamping down?
No.
Or do you try to understand maybe where it's coming from? Because here's the problem with the Israeli state is they continue to use Jews as a shield. I've seen them do this many times.
I hear you.
And so then when you have people who don't really understand the issue, like common Americans, right? And if you keep saying Israel are Jews and Jews are Israel, it's the same thing.
Okay.
Then people who don't really understand the issue are going to say, well, I see Israel bombing a bunch of children. That is a fact. So that means the Jews are bombing a bunch of children. So that means Jews are bad.
Right.
So that's the concern, right? If you continue to tie those two together, that's bad.
And if you don't explain that the other side has also...
They do the same thing for Islamophobia as well, or for Arabs or the Islam, is that they say, well, this is a radical Islamic state, Iran, so that means we need to get rid of all the Muslims. I mean, there is a lot of
But where are we getting rid of all the Muslims? Teach me, because maybe I am missing it.
Well, before, I think Charlie Kirk was a big proponent of getting rid of Muslims in America, saying that this is, the culture is a clash and we need to be a Christian nation.
I've heard him say he wasn't a Christian nationalist.
I don't know exactly where.
I've seen.
I don't know. I don't want to label.
That.
Like, I try not to label anybody, but he certainly. You can pull up tweets where he's saying the Muslims are a big problem.
Okay.
In America, and
is it Muslims though that are fundamentalist who engage in Sharia law? Was there a distinction there? That's what I would ask.
they're throwing the Sharia law out there. A lot of this came out of but currently right now, Mamdani is running for mayor of New York, and he's Muslim, and they're sort of fear mongering.
Something a little shady about that. By the way,
he's going to bring about Sharia. Oh, what's shady
here's
about
what's
that?
shady about that.
Yeah,
Muslims don't believe in gay marriage, let alone transitioning kids. Where's the very strange. How could you be Muslim, but yet you believe in transitioning kids? They're diametrically opposed.
I pointed that out too when people. I think I saw Laura Loomer. If you know, she was tweeting about.
I know of her. I know of her. I don't follow her. I hear she can be quite scary.
Yeah,
when she sinks her teeth into you.
Whatever. She posted this picture of the Statue of Liberty in the Muslim garb, and she's like, "This is the future of New York." And I said, well, Mamdani is like pro-trans, so I don't understand how that could be.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's something weird about that doesn't add up. So, like, but the vast majority, every single Muslim I have ever met in my entire life is a complete pacifist.
Right.
Now, obviously, there is a faction with the Taliban and Sharia law in Iran and, beating women and stoning them to death because their hair's showing. That's real. That's another area, by the way, I think everybody who's so upset about Palestine could also focus on, like, that's also kind of upsetting. Where's your outrage? It's the selective outrage that alarms me personally. And that's when I'm like, funny that you only put a spotlight on Israel. What about all these other atrocities? That part alarms me. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I don't think Netanyahu's banana shorts. I'm not going to say that. I haven't. I'm not going to tell you this needs to stop. This doesn't need to stop. It needs to stop. But I'm also going to say, hey, now, horrible things have occurred from the other guys too. And you could say, look at what Netanyahu's doing. And listen, by the way, James, I haven't done my homework. I'm going to take you at face value, okay? I hate to tell you, I wouldn't be surprised, but somehow the dislike for, if that's true, the dislike for one guy has given permission for bad guys on the far left and the far right to just be like, you know what the issue is? Those Jews. Come. And that worries me. When my Jewish friends tell me I can't wear my Star of David.
Yeah, that's a concern.
Your co-host was like, I'm worried that people will find out I'm Jewish. Like that, there's a problem there. And I get that you're probably going to tell me, well, Jill, Netanyahu's breeding the most anti-Semitism. I think you're right. I think even Charlie Kirk said, this is a horrible, this needs to stop. This is one of the worst things that can happen for the Jews because it's impacting them. But at the same time, when I'm responsible for content and I have co-hosts that are trying to make a case for a conspiracy theory linking Jews to 9/11 or Jews to Charlie Kirk's death, in my opinion, it's dangerous. In my opinion, it stokes the narrative of anti-Semitism. These girls can do whatever they want on their own platforms. I don't want to participate. And if that makes people hate me, then they hate me. If that makes them drag you for talking to me, I'm so sorry.
No, I don't care about that kind of thing. And just to address that point, that's where I think my voice, I'm very careful about this kind of thing too. And I think I'm hoping that
the
message
are. Which is why you and I can have this conversation together.
And I think it's really bad to point the Jews. I mean, that's the same as saying that Iran's conduct is the same as Islam, China, because it's a Buddhist country. Now Buddhism is tied in. That kind of stuff.
Gosh, I didn't even know people were making this connection.
But that's what that's the analogy, right? Is that, Iran is Islamist fundamental state, so we should get rid of all Muslims, right?
Which is absurd and disgusting and hateful, though.
And that's why I don't engage. I actually, if I see those kinds of things, I mean, I can't do all the comments. You can't respond to all of them, but I will respond to them and say, hey, this has really nothing to do with the Jews. It is a governmental policy that I disagree with, and that's the focus.
Okay.
Versus,
can I ask you, though? Because here's my question, because this is something that I found alarming. So when this narrative turns into a video that I'm getting sent from people, Is this too far for you? Dead honest. Is it too far?
Here. Is it over here?
I mean, you've heard it, but here's the question.
Oh, it's Anna.
I don't hear Netanyahu.
Israelis watching this right now, I want you to understand this, okay? Because others are very afraid. I get the IDF sending me pictures of their weapons, talking about how they're going to slaughter me. I'm not afraid of you.
If that happened, horrifying.
Words in American media, they can F off. They're not like me. I'm different. I'm not afraid of you. Okay? So while you're cashing checks that are funded by my tax dollars and the tax dollars of my fellow Americans, I need you to understand something clearly. You are hated internationally.
That's a little intense.
Don't be mistaken based on the propaganda you hear in American media. That's not representative of how the American people feel about you. You're hated. And it's not because you're Jewish.
Now we're Jewish.
It's not because they're Jewish.
When you act like absolute demons.
It's not because you're Jewish. So I'm confused because you didn't say it's because of Netanyahu's choices. You didn't say it's the Israeli government. In my opinion, that crossed the line for me. I
would never say anything like. I mean, that's.
But James, that's my point. This is where it's like
because that's saying the Israeli people now bear responsibility for government policies, which is unfair. Because I mean, if you go that on Americans, we're responsible for all kinds of atrocities and coups and all kinds of things that happen.
I'm guessing you're not a Trumper.
I'm not a big, Trump guy.
Okay, now then, presuming that you probably disagree with a lot of his positions and policies. If I hated you and said death to all Americans because of Trump, that's not, there's no, that is where, that to me, that crosses the line. That to me stokes anti-Semitism. And that is the part that I was like, Anna, too much, dude. For me, you do it on your platform. I didn't have her removed from her take. I left her take. And I didn't this is where I don't censor Anna. I don't censor anybody. I don't call for censorship. I don't call for canceling ever. Never happened. I don't call to boycott channels, nothing like that. But if I don't want to participate, that's my right. Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah. I mean, looking at that, I mean, I'm generally a big fan of Anna with her reporting and how
I'm
brave she is, courageous.
I know.
And I don't know her personally at all. She sent me a couple messages, nice messages, and I say the same thing about her.
Yeah.
Like for me, that is not a universalist message.
She's become very influential with this, though.
Right. That to me won't help the issue.
Okay. Well, we found a little bit
right.
of
That's what I would say because
yeah. And you know something that is what I was saying. And so, for clarity, again, my point is not you don't get to criticize Israel. You know how many people I've had on my podcast who are doing that? You know how many people, do you know how many shows we had on Her Take that did that? But for me, if you're going to do it, we should have another person who can say, I know what Netanyahu did. True. Oh, hold on. There's more you don't know about this. I'm not qualified. We're putting out one-sided information that only bashes Israel. We're not.
And I don't know the composition of the Her Take crew. I don't know
what it was. It started out as 3 people who didn't know anything and one person, Anna, who was very passionate. And then I think when Amy and Lindy felt like, oh, the cool kids are doing it, they kind of jumped into that mix. And I was very surprised when they tried to make a case, because it started out as, yeah, there's no evidence for this. We all think that. And Amy even said that. Anna said that. But yet all of a sudden you have Lindy trying to make a case for it and Amy trying to make a case for it. And when I said, where is the evidence for this? Instead of saying, we all agreed there wasn't any, Lindy goes, I think Max Blumenthal's great, the guy who reported on the 150 million. I find him to have very credible reporting. And I'm thinking, we just discussed the fact that...
And in general, I also like Max Blumenthal, just for the record.
Fair. But there's still no proof of what he's putting forward. And there are definite conflicts of interest in that he takes money from governments like Qatar and Iran. which you somehow left out of the segment. Yeah. And Amy's answer is, because Candace Owens says so. Another person that I've had on my show. And I think is a very nice lady. Don't agree with her on everything. But when all of a sudden you start to try to make a case for this, when the man's own business partner said, as for the $150 million, no one knows about this. I mean, no one's ever heard of this. That's when I was just thinking, what are we doing? What are we doing here? And I personally didn't want to participate. I have seen so many of your videos criticizing the Israeli government. How many? I follow you. You wrote to me. I said, I think you're great. I'm sitting here and I want you to tell me all the stuff I don't know. And I'll tell you all the stuff, I'll tell you all the stuff that concerns me. But there's a difference between an open mind and an overwhelming bias, I think, in my opinion.
And I would never, I said this yesterday too, I would never introduce a segment and say I don't have any evidence or there's no credibility to this and I'm going to talk about it. I would introduce that as, I think there is some credibility to this, and this is why I'm talking about. I mean, this is for this story. This isn't related to the $150 million payment, but this is something that I heard from a very close, like the source that I trust a lot within the government. They're saying that, hey, some senator heard on that first day he was shot. They were saying that, or they were in a private conversation saying, maybe this was Israel. And just by the sheer fact of like having a high-ranking senator in the Senate Foreign Intelligence Committee think that, even if it's not true, is really bad for the relationship with Israel.
I get what you're saying actually with that. Even if
that's not true, why would you have a high-ranking senator think that?
Is there proof of that?
There is no proof of the connection in terms of like.
Is there proof that someone said?
Although I would say if they're doing a good job, they wouldn't have any proof, right? If they're really.
I mean, why in the world? This is the part where I'm like, is it that hard to believe that a kid whose family said he was radicalized, who is in love with a man, who is transitioning to become a woman, that is also part of a community called furries, which I would imagine is even a little farther to the left. I don't have an intimate understanding of that community. Seems fairly leftist. That fascist catch. What is it, Bella Ciao? Yeah, like this. Yeah, it's just.
I do want to. If that's all true, then I'm there with you. I just haven't seen proof that he definitively is the guy.
He turned himself in.
Well, his family turned him, and now he's not cooperating with authorities, and he's saying that I didn't do it.
Oh, he said I didn't do it.
He's pleading not guilty. He's pleading not guilty.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah,
I thought he turned himself in.
And all the affidavit, I've read the affidavit, and all the stuff that's insinuated is from the family. His family said he has been radicalized. He never said it himself. It's his family saying it. So I just wanted, because
go.
Something I pointed out in the video the other day.
Tell me.
I just want more transparency.
As you should. I don't disagree with you at all. That's what I'm saying. Tell me everything.
Well, because I don't know if you've seen that video of him running across the rooftop.
Yes.
Right? And that video starts maybe 5 or 10 seconds after the supposed shot was fired. So it's in view of that footage, like in the camera's frame. And so why didn't you release 10 seconds before, show him shooting in the prone position, firing the bullet, and running away? We only see the guy running away.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And so I want radical transparency from the FBI to say, hey, definitively this is the guy, especially if all the other evidence that you put up is kind of shoddy, and it makes us have to really, really trust you guys to know, okay, so all these texts.
Why put the texts at it all, though? Here's my other argument is, I was having this conversation with Brandon Tatum the other day. If these are baloney texts, why release them at all? If you fabricated them, why put it? They don't exist.
And Kash Patel, I think it was 2 or 3 days ago, even tweeted out. He made a long tweet saying, "Yeah, we're going to look into the guy making the hand signals. We're going to look into why these texts are weird." So he's even acknowledging now there's this evidence is somewhat unbelievable.
But see, okay, so help me connect the dots here.
Yeah.
Why would a government that loved this guy, a government that this Charlie got elected, arguably, or played a big role in it, why would they not want to catch whoever did this? Why would they put out why would they say this is bizarre
Well, this is now speculation conspiracy. If I were to actually answer that question, I
totally get it. Now
right?
now we are
full,
in that world.
Full conspiracy.
We're completely in that world. Yes, but you're saying that. You're not. There is a huge difference between saying we have no idea. We're guessing. We have no idea whatsoever. We're not saying Israel did it, and here's why we think so. But I don't really think so because I don't want to be called anti-Semitic. But here's why I think so. That's totally like, come on, that's wacky. This is totally
if they
different
were
than
involved,
that, James.
I guess if the government was somewhat involved in this operation, then they would definitely want to cover it up.
But why then just be like?
There are other conspiracies. Israel is not the only conspiracy. There's
other
conspiracies saying Trump has killed Charlie Kirk.
Why would Trump kill Charlie Kirk?
Because Charlie Kirk is okay. So this is a whole different sidebar.
Whole different
not Israel related.
Let's say it's a whole different ball of crazy. Give me the ball of crazy.
So this is the other theory.
I have so many questions for you about freaking tampons and raw milk, and here we are.
Yeah,
that's okay.
We're gonna hopefully get to that.
Poor thing. All right.
This is the Trump deep state assassination of Charlie Kirk theory, is that Trump next in line is J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is very tied into that Peter Thiel palantired surveillance state thing that nobody really wants, and there seems to be sort of in line, right? They're grooming this next leader of the Republican Party.
I have heard this.
And Charlie Kirk is the guy that could possibly upend that because he has so much influence. He's probably one of the most powerful figures within the Republican Party because he had such a grasp on the young people.
With J.D. Vance.
We don't know that for sure. But I mean, these are conspiracy theories.
Give me the we don't. Where's the we don't know that part? Because they seemed exceptionally close
now. But they could split off if Charlie said, "I want to be president."
Do you think?
And Charlie,
hold on. Hold on. Let me. So the suggestion is that if Trump, wait a minute. If Trump, Charlie was going to unseat JD because he's going to say in 3 years, "I want to be president," so we got to take him out. And Peter Thiel took him out, is what you're saying.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying other people are saying this.
That's
other people are saying this.
Charlie loved Peter Thiel. I'm going to say no.
I don't know I don't know the nature of their relationship. Honestly, never seen them together. So I don't know. Peter Thiel is kind of this
I've heard him speak very favorably about Peter Thiel. And I know Peter Thiel did give donations to Turning Point. At least I believe I heard him talking about that actually in defense of gay people. Which is the only reason I think I've seen that video is because he was saying he was taking down a person who didn't like gays, and he was saying, "You think there's no room for Dave Rubin? You think there's no room for so and so, Scott Besson, Peter Thiel? Would you have everybody return Peter Thiel's donations?" And that's the reason. Now I could be recollecting this incorrectly, but.
And I think all of these conspiracies are a result of a lack of transparency over the years from the U.S. government. If they had transparency, if we knew exactly what happened to JFK, if we knew what exactly was going on with Epstein, the people would not be driven to concoct these things. These things happen because we don't know what's going on.
You're totally right.
And so I can't blame myself or the people to say, well, it seems like you're not telling the truth, so let me try to figure out what it is.
You're 100% right, actually, and which is one of the reasons I love what you do so much. And now I want to talk about that. So pick a topic. You get to pick because you cover a wide range of topics from, policies in California that impact homelessness, fires, let's
start with California.
You want to start with California?
We're in California right now. And you're back. I know you.
I don't live here, but I come and I go. I come and I go to be able to have in-person interviews, and for family stuff. Okay, so let me pull up my James notes here. All right, I have a bunch of links, but I want to start with homelessness. So I'm going to throw out what the person who knows a little bit more than the average person would say. I've heard we spent $24 billion on this. I heard the problem got worse. I heard we don't know where the money is. You did a deep dive into this. Tell me everything you ended up learning in your dive on Newsom, California homelessness, $24 billion. Is there anything else to know that I missed?
Well, I think people should understand what is happening. And before I get into all of that, I just want to say, because I think a lot of people, even you, call me an investigative journalist and this kind of thing.
Well, what are you?
And there's some investigation that I did. There's a very small sliver of, I think, what I would deem primary source and news gathering. I'm going and talking to people or trying to get public records requests done. But that takes a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I can probably only do like one of those every few months because from start to finish. So a lot of the other stuff I do is built on the back of other people's reporting, like local reporters. And I'm basically
aggregating it.
Yeah, I'm taking their reporting, I'm aggregating it, amplifying it. So I just want to give them a lot of credit for the stuff that they do that nobody really acknowledges, right? I think I'm like at the tip, because I'm on social media. They're out there slogging it, in a traditional newsroom, trying to figure out what's going on. So I want to give them a lot of credit for that. So you're
connecting the dots. So one reporter chases down one story about something, another one chases another, and you're aggregating all of this information. When you put it together, you now have a full picture, and then you amplify the message.
And we can't do it without everybody, and that's why local news.
Totally get it.
We can't just have news influencers.
Totally.
We can't just have the CNNs, the talking heads. Like, we need people on the ground that's gathering this information. And to answer this, the story of California, so we know, right, 24, now it's higher, $26 billion over the last 5 or 6 years dedicated to trying to solve this homeless problem.
Right.
Homeless is up about 30 to 35%, depending on how you measure it.
Bananas.
And with that amount, I've calculated, you could basically buy homes for almost every single homeless person you could house. And another fact of California that I learned recently is that we actually have more units vacant in California than homeless people. So then you have to ask yourself, well, what's going on here? Why do we keep, if you talk to a lot of the policy experts, they say we need more housing. More housing.
Yeah, we're building the monster in the median in Venice, and we're building low-income housing in the Palisades, which I can't wait for you to talk about. Of course, we constantly need low-income
we need more housing. And that talking point is an industry. It's a real estate industry injected talking point, is because they want to build. This is how they're going to make their money, so they need to find a reason to do it. And the reason is, or the altruistic reason is, we're going to help house people. But the reality here is that in a lot of those mega low affordable or low income housing units, there's only a few of them that actually are set aside for low income people. They're market rate buildings. So they're like luxury high rises. In order to get the tax credit, then there's a couple of units within that whole building that they say is low income.
Got it.
And there's also covenants as well. So within 25, it depends. So between 25 and 50-year covenants to say these need to be low income. And after that, it's market rate.
Got it.
And when you dig into, so one of the big things, my 2 big things, like follow the money. And usually then you find it's always profit over people. So Gavin Newsom, if you remember a few years ago, he was running for against a recall. Do you remember the recall?
Yes, I sure do.
So one of his biggest industry backers was real estate. So then he's now faced with a challenge of, this is a really bad PR thing that's happening in California when you go to these big cities, all of them, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, they all have homeless issues. And so they're saying, what's going on here? And he said, well, we're going to solve this problem. But the way he solves the problem is only through a giveaway to his donors to say, well, we're going to do it that way. We're going to build housing, but it's just funneling money from the government into the hands of the real estate people.
Are we giving them so we're giving them the money to build these places?
We're not giving them all the money, so we're giving them tax credits and things like that to make it economically
viable. So when Newsom gives $100 million for low income housing in the Palisades, who's getting that $100 million?
So that's the developer.
They are getting actual money then and a tax credit.
I haven't looked into the $100 million specifically and like where that money, how it's going. I think it's what it is. I think it's to help subsidize the building because they want to say, hey, we're going to, supply some of this housing to homeless people.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to make it seem like, Palisades needs more low-income housing. It's like they can actually build that elsewhere. That's what a point that I made before is like you can actually build that elsewhere. But Palisades is a better neighborhood.
Yep.
So that building will be worth astronomically more in 50 years than if you build it in another area.
Right, because none of this is actually about housing the homeless.
No, because if we wanted to house the homeless, we would just house the homeless.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually just do it.
Right.
But it goes through all of these nonprofits, right, that aren't held accountable.
Posted, yeah, there was one about fraud. A woman who had siphoned off some of that money.
Oh, okay. I don't know. There was a lot of these stories, but it might have been Valicia Adams Kellum, who was the head of the LA Homeless Services Authority.
That was it.
And that
was it.
That agency was responsible for basically giving out contracts to private vendors.
Got it.
To, do various programs to alleviate homelessness. But the problem with that is there's no accountability to say, I gave you X millions of dollars. How many people did you house? None of that happened.
Right.
And so what happened this is local reporting again, they were digging through all of the receipts and said, hey, you're funneling money, millions of dollars to your husband's nonprofit.
That was it.
Right?
That was the story.
And that's the kind of conflict of interest that erodes trust in government, right? Because you're saying these government officials are in bed with nonprofits, which are basically for profit. I mean, nonprofits are there's a whole industrial complex of if you solve this problem, then you have no more work.
Right.
You can't actually solve it. I think that's the fundamental issue, is that the incentive structure is all jacked up.
When I looked at this one involving the No Kings riots, and I believe you did a video on this and who funded it, and Christy Walton from Walmart, you had like an incredible expose on that. There was one piece that I remember, and I can't remember if this was in your reporting particularly, but it was Gavin Newsom took state dollars and he gave it to a nonprofit called Chirla, which is, I believe, an immigrants' rights group, which, great, whatever. These guys then turned around and paid money into his gubernatorial campaign. So it's like this weird loop where he takes tax dollars,
right,
funnels it through the NGOs, like, here's work to help with immigrants, this, that, and the other. And then, by the way, give it back to me to run for governor or to fight a recall. And it's I don't think people understand how truly diabolical. And it's not unique to Newsom.
It's not unique to Newsom.
Right.
At all.
Right.
He's just... because he is running the largest state and the most, I guess,
the largest GDP,
the wealthiest state, right?
How is it more than New York? It's got to be big tech, I think.
And that's and it's just the clear corruption where you don't see anything pass for the people. And this is something I learned. I was talking to Butch Ware. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's running for governor of California as a Green Party, and he was trying to explain. He was telling me the story, which blew my mind, in that, universal healthcare is something that a lot of people want in California. And supposedly that's like the Democratic Party platform is universal healthcare.
Okay.
But
there's a but.
That would go against the donors of the Democratic Party, because they have a lot of healthcare and insurance donors as well. I mean, both parties more or less have very similar constituencies in the donors.
It's the uniparty.
Yeah, exactly.
We talk of that. That's the whole point. These guys all take money from the same people. One of the key politicians that went into clip Kennedy's wings in that nomination process was Republican, Cassidy. It's like, remember that?
Yeah,
I'm going to need all these concessions. Wasn't a Democrat.
But the problem with the Democrats is that their part of their platform is universal health care, or at least that's on that's their constituency. Versus the Republicans are like, you kind of have to do your own thing. Like, we're all responsible for ourselves.
Right.
So the message is more aligned there. So
makes perfect sense.
So then the issue here is that the Democrats typically have like a supermajority in California.
Yep.
And so there's not this, like, you can't do the blame game here in California as much as like, oh, we're getting railroad, we're getting blocked. But they did have an opportunity. So this is back in the Schwarzenegger era when he was governor.
Okay.
So the Democrats passed universal health care in the state legislature because...
Is that the California Cares?
No. So they passed it in the state legislature.
Okay.
And then Schwarzenegger vetoed it because they knew that Schwarzenegger would veto it so that they could pass it. And then now that there's a Democrat governor, they're always like 1 or 2 votes short.
Got it.
And so this is kind of the game that they play.
So they could blame it on Schwarzenegger and look like they did their part.
Exactly.
And now they don't have a Schwarzenegger in there, so they got to try to figure out how to mess with it and manipulate it so it doesn't pass.
Yeah, and this is like what I try to do, like, if you want to find sort of a unifying theme in some of the segments and videos that I do, is to look for these what I deem to be like So one of my favorite quotes is the Mark Twain quote, where it's not what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. And so if you continuously think the Democrats are the good guys,
Isn't that the truth?
that is not helpful in actually getting anything done because you don't realize what they're doing behind the scenes. So that's why I rail the Democrats all the time, because they're supposedly the party of human rights, of minority rights and all the and democracy, right? They're one of the big, champions of saving democracy, but they have one of the most anti-democratic systems set up within their primary system. And now you've seen with Mamdani, they don't even respect the results of their primary. So how could you ask, how could you be the saviors of democracy if you don't even apply those principles in your own party elections?
I mean, that was one of the top criticisms of Harris was
the undemocratic nature of her
nomination,
right? It was just,
what happened here? The censorship, by the way, is talk about both sides.
Both sides.
Goodness gracious. You have videos of Harris, Clinton, like all of these Democratic politicians, Obama, we need to silence you. We need to silence misinformation. It was the Biden administration that sent the briefs to all the social media companies to silence people with vaccine hesitancy over the COVID shots. Like, what are you talking about? I totally understand if you're upset in anybody being canceled, shut down, silence of any government involvement, but then how do you have the cognitive dissonance to deny the part that the Democrats, it's just bizarre, James.
Well, usually it's whatever party is in power, they start to censor.
But exactly. Exactly. And it's up to us as individuals to say, no, unilaterally, this is a pass. But what's bizarre is when they gaslight you and people who are on the left are just incapable of saying like, yeah, canceled, even just because I've heard the argument with regard to Tucker, Roseanne, this, that, the other. Oh, the FCC wasn't involved. The Obamas called ABC and sunsetted Roseanne.
Well, Trump was deplatformed from Twitter.
Right. Exactly. Like, what are you for? Where are your principles? And that's what it takes ginormous balls to call out both sides because you don't get to hide in one tribe. You don't, and there's safety there. When the other side is calling for your head, you want an army on the other side to be like, we've got your six. But when you're like, they did that too, it's shitty. It's like hardest thing to do. Takes the most integrity and the most balls, and you've got it.
Well, thank you for saying that.
You really do.
It's really not a good place to be because it's a lot easier to be like a partisan reporter. Yep. It's more profitable that way.
Yep.
And here it's like everybody just kind of hates me.
Same. I don't hate you. I think there are a lot of us. I just think we don't make the most noise online. I just
think
it's
not comfortable to listen because a lot of my audience, because I talk about, I find them to be, consistent threads. But if I go, okay, pro-Palestine, but I also go anti-vax, they're like, what the f*** are you doing here? And I'm like, well, this is the same thing. I mean, I'm just investigating corruption and conflicts of interest.
Don't tell me the story.
What?
No, I'm saying like to them, they don't want to know.
They don't. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like they don't understand that there's a principle here that I'm following is that I am calling out the people who are in power and we should scrutinize. And also the same thing, I think the pejoratives, right? The anti-vax, they're using that as a pejorative to shut down conversation.
I've never once said that, by the way. And I don't think I've ever seen you say that. And yet I know I've been called it. I've simply said, can we not have...
Well, they have B, right? That's just the best example of...
The perfect example. There is not one longitudinal safety study on hepatitis B against unvaccinated kids versus vaccinated kids, inert placebo, does not exist. The two studies that are cited most often, one is for MMR. Hep B is not involved. They're like, we did a huge study about this, no autism. And I'm not suggesting there's a link. I'm simply saying that huge study is only MMR. And the other study they love to talk about involves thimerosal, not everything else about the hepatitis B vaccine. The reality is it's not settled science. Just It's okay. Vaccines have but to even say that, anti-vaxxer. It's bizarre.
Right. And because I just laid out, I just laid out the facts and hey, we don't, the fact is that this vaccine does not apply to 80% of the people. Because you could say, okay, if a mother is at risk, we don't know her status, okay, get that vaccine. But if you know the status, then you don't need to get that vaccine. But that's like 80% of the people. So that's a lot less revenue. And the history of that vaccine is that not very many people take it because it was only recommended for at-risk people.
Sex workers and intravenous drug users.
And Merck was like, we're not really making a lot of money. And then so they went to Congress and Congress said, okay, no problem. We will put this, or not Congress, but the FDA was like, we're going to put this on the childhood schedule so then more people get it.
And they lobbied the World Health Organization, so it went global.
And me as a former big pharma consultant, this is exactly what happens. There's a reason, if you look at all the different business units, vaccines is one that they're really putting more money in and more investment behind, because if you look at just how revenue can be captured, would you rather create a drug that's only used when you get sick and you need it, or one for everybody to quote unquote prevent that sickness, right? Would you rather have the therapy for it or just the vaccine? Therapy is going to apply to what, 1%, 0.5% of people. Now you have 90% of the people.
Yep.
One's going to make way more money.
100%. It's odd that people don't want to hear, not people, but some people are incapable of hearing this. Like the Tylenol thing is.
Oh, I just made a video about that.
James, I just don't understand. You and I talked about this. There's some solid data there to suggest maybe not great during pregnancy from Tylenol. Tylenol has numerous posts that are like, this is not meant for pregnancy. Talk to your doctor.
Yeah, it's because there's some risk benefit. It's like if you're having a high fever and you need it, it's probably better to take the Tylenol.
Right. Yeah. But
you shouldn't
exactly
be popping.
In your cost-benefit analysis, high fever, it could be more harmful to the fetus, arguably, than acetaminophen. But if you've got a backache, probably don't take acetaminophen. And there's the friggin' the dean of Harvard came out and said, there's research for this. There are numerous studies. What I can't figure out is, when did people start defending the guys that made Tylenol just because the Trump administration
people are doing? Did you see the videos on TikTok?
Pounding Tylenol.
A pregnant woman just taking Tylenol to make a funny video.
Yeah.
To own Trump. That's the stuff that's like, the tribalism has to end, because you're making bad decisions for yourself. Because Trump says
the country.
You can not like Trump and also be critical of big pharma. Those two things can exist simultaneously.
Gosh, and you know what's funny is on the other side, then they're like, he's not critical enough. You can't really win. There's one you did. This leads me to my next one on fluoride. Can I tell you, I've lost friends over this. Literally lost friends over fluoride. Because I had a friend who had a thyroid condition, and there's some evidence to suggest it can F with thyroid function. And I was like, are you filtering your water? There's some data to suggest. Trump and Kennedy. Like, I was the world's biggest dickhead. And I sent your piece to her. I sent Huberman's entire podcast on it. I sent video. Talk to me about what you learned about fluoride.
This is where I would tell. I am not the science expert on fluoride.
What did you discover?
I listened to. I talked to dentists. I talked to experts to do this piece.
Yep.
And one thing to understand about fluoride right away is that it's not universal. In that there are a lot of countries, Western countries, that are industrialized that don't fluoridate their water.
Yep.
Okay, so this isn't settled science. If you can find other countries that are doing a different policy and they're not people, teeth rotting.
In some cases, they have better oral health than ours.
Then this is something we should debate. And then you look into the history. Why did that start happening? Well, it was through one town, and then there were scientific studies that were, now we would look back, was not rigorous enough, but this became public policy. So
and
we started doing it.
Like modern day dentistry and having fluoridated toothpaste or hydroxyapatite in the toothpaste. And all of those different pre-proper dental care, but continue.
And then you start to get the business side involved in that. Now because where the fluoride comes from is like this industrial byproduct camera. It's like hydroxy something.
It's not the pharmaceutical grade version of fluoride.
Right. It is a byproduct.
Waste.
Exactly. So instead of paying, millions of dollars every year to get rid of that toxic waste, we could just sell it to municipalities that can then inject it into the water supply. So 2 birds, 1 stone. And also there's also the other side of it is like then the organization, the dental industry, the ADA, I believe, they've been with this for so long. If they were to reverse course, a lot of corporate backlash, a lot of people's, credentials at stake. So there's incentives against it. And this is the stuff that I look into that I'm really passionate about is like, let's examine the incentive structure to see if that is informing public policy more so than the science side. Because I think a lot of people use the science to then justify
There's an
policy.
overwhelming amount of science
Right?
to suggest we're getting too much fluoride. It's in freaking everything now.
Because then if I get into the science stuff, people will say, you're not a scientist, you know what the hell you're talking about.
But there's a robust amount of data linking it to lower IQs
and that's when I bring in the science. Exactly.
To thyroid dysfunction. Skeletal fluorosis is far more rare. But there's a numerous amount of studies out there.
And there was a lawsuit where the judge ruled, right, that said,
regarding lowered IQ in kids.
Exactly. And said, this isn't safe. This isn't, if you have the court of laws. And then now they're creating, once again, a pejorative out of this. Now you're anti-science. If you talk about this, you're anti-kids.
People's teeth are going to rot out.
Exactly.
100%.
And I also asked this question is that if you think that the teeth are going to rot out, then we would have done this year. We would have removed fluoride years ago because that would have been a boon for the dental industry.
Exactly.
They would have gotten rid of this whole thing.
You say that. When were we worried about cavity, like making money off of chronic health conditions? I'm so confused. I was dying laughing with that video because you're spot on.
Right. We never cared. Like chronic disease is like funding the entire healthcare industry, sick care industry.
Yep.
If you would put it that way. So if this would create more sickness, probably.
There's no reason to ingest it either.
Because right now we have more technology. There's dental, through topical fluoride. Because this is what I was talking about.
Topical.
And this is what this is Dr. Stacy Whitman. I think you probably know her.
I know of her, yeah.
Yeah. And she was telling me, so she's like, as a dentist, I can't with good conscience tell you that this is good policy if I know I can prevent cavities in a different way that's better for the body, right? Because she told me this line, which is, really compelling and it made an impact on me. She's like, I can either look at the teeth as, one individual thing, like a microcosm of the whole body, or I could look at the whole body and see what I can do to make sure that the body is healthy versus just looking at the teeth. And I think RFK said something similar about vaccines. It's like, if you say so-and-so vaccine stops this, then I'd probably be like, yeah, it does. But what about the downstream impact? Are we measuring, what do they call all-cause mortality, right? Is that something that we're looking into?
Yep.
And I actually have, because I went to business school in New York, I have friends all over.
I didn't know that.
I did
not know that. I knew the pharma piece.
Yeah. And so I have friends who work in big pharma, and he was working. So I don't want to name the company because I don't want to get in trouble.
Don't.
But anyways, he was saying
big pharma company.
Big pharma, and he's like, yeah, we don't do the efficacy tested vaccine because it costs too much. We just test some other kind of like whatever the immune response portion.
Immunogenicity.
Yeah, exactly. That's the term. And this is where people say you don't know what you're talking about. I was like, well, sure, but I know the business behind it. And I talk about it from that perspective. I know how businesses operate and what they optimize for.
Okay, but if you don't know, for example, there was a some sort of PDF crowdsourced document that I believe CNN put out. And this was sent to me from a New York Times reporter who was doing a piece on me. And she was actually totally fair and great. And she's like, well, what about if Kennedy is telling the truth? What about this? I found this. And it was like 200 different studies on vaccines that supposedly used placebo, right? And they're like, look at him. Bananas. Liar. So I called Dr. Joel Warsh, who's a pediatrician and has his MS in epidemiology, and wrote a book about this and is totally credible, totally neutral, totally honest in every single engagement or interaction I have had with him. On top of the fact that I read the book and there's no bias, there's no conclusion. He comes to the conclusion that we don't know. There's not enough data to know. So I said, Doc, what is this? Right? And I'm not able to read through he goes, okay, Jill, let me break this down for you. Number one, the vast majority of these are not even on the CDC schedule. This one could be for a toenail fungus that comes from, the river in the Congo. Like this isn't even relevant to our conversation. He's like, once you remove all that, we've got like 25% of these studies that pertain to vaccines that are even on the schedule. Next is how many of them are using an inert placebo. So in other words, they're previously looking at what were called, not previously, in many of them, they were looking at active comparables. So a previous version of the vaccine. So if that previous version caused 10 seizures and the new one causes 10 seizures, there's no difference with placebo. Once we get rid of the active comparables and you just have inert placebo, you're like at 5% of what's on the list. Now when you've got like just a handful of studies left, he goes, okay, of all these, how many are longitudinal safety studies? Not efficacy, meaning does it still stop you from getting the hepatitis B or whatever the hell it is? Not immunogenicity. Is your immune system still mounting a response against this X amount of years later? But safety, 0. How many were done pre-licensing of the vaccine is when you get to 0. I think there was like maybe 1 or 2 of those studies that had longitudinal safety for things like an MMR, for example. But when it's pre-licensing now you're at 0. And you don't have to be a scientist to do the homework and do the investigating and talk to the experts, then say, okay, I spoke to Dr. Joel, but that's what journalists do.
And that's the point. I try to explain to people.
That is the point. That is the job of a journalist. I got this information. I spoke to experts. Here's what I found. And this is cognitive dissonance. This is like, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. My party is perfect. I am perfect. And there's a very bizarre kind of insecurity of if there's a flaw in the party, there's a flaw in me. I'm suddenly wrong somehow. And I think it's like an existential threat for people. I don't know why. But more of us are waking up.
I think, and I think you have, everybody could be compromised, right? Journalists are compromised in a lot of ways, right? Depending on who you work for, where you get your money from.
Yep. That's
the same with dietitians and nutrition. They say, well, you don't know what you're talking about. Listen to this person. And that's why I point out, well, this person is funded by, Bayer. They do work for Thermo Fisher Dynamic. You don't think they're going to be biased towards maybe, they're going to be biased towards validating some of that more corporate scientific evidence versus saying just blue sky kind of, hey, I'm just going to look at this and whatever result I get.
Yeah.
And that's exactly, so that's why I very rarely have done any deals of any kind in terms of funding my journalism. It's because I know it compromises me. If I start to do stuff, then it makes me the same as CNN or the other corporate media. So then I'm very selective in how I can make my money through whatever ad programs that are through YouTube and TikTok, and maybe combining it with 1 or 2 deals. I've only done one thing for my podcast,
too, because it's like you got to eat. Yeah.
But I also know that's not why I got into this, right? I didn't get into this to make a lot of money. I need enough money, obviously.
That's why there's got to be merch, and we need to support people whose content we love. PBD says that all the time. If you like someone, buy their merch, so they can live and continue providing you uncompromised content. And
I'm also uncomfortable with asking my audience. I've never asked my audience for money because I'm like, I don't want to let you guys down. I know you guys are struggling. I don't want to take your money.
But honey, that's where you've got what's the word? Hard goods? What's the word I'm looking for? Forgive me. This is my
like the swag or the merch
swag, merch, stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff. Like, listen, I'm not doing a gazillion-dollar deal with Novo Nordisk for Ozempic. That's the other trainer that was on Biggest Loser. Who's on the homepage. And like, whoa, not Bob.
Even though you get so much shit. That's the thing is like.
I know. If I tell you that I take vitamins and I invest in a vitamin company and everything I tell you I believe about the vitamins, this company, This is business. You do your own homework. You don't have to buy the collagen. You don't have to buy friggin'.
And if they make the accusation, oh, you're pro-vitamin, you're like, yep, I'm pro-vitamin.
I have always been pro-vitamin. But I think at the end of the day, people have to understand, in order for you to take the time to do what you do, in order for you to provide them with this information, you also have to have money coming in to pay your electric bill and your car payment and your mortgage and shoot all this. This is a fortune. We lose money on this all the time. We make nothing. That's the best part is when people are like, oh, get paid. I'm like, dude, okay.
It's like if I got paid, I would have just stayed big pharma consultant. That would have been the easiest way.
Same. I would have done that deal with Pepsi, like everybody else, for diet soda.
Right. You could have been out there saying, well,
oh, God, why did
Diet
I take
Pepsi is fine. Aspartame is fine.
Yes.
Everything is. I mean,
hashtag derail the shame. They sell you oversized workout clothes. Oh my God, the money would have flowed. What did we do? Where did we go wrong, James?
Well, I think that's the bigger picture of America. We talked about this, right? Can we instill culture other than money here as Americans? Like, is there something else that we care about more? Can we get people?
But then we got to support the people that are doing that. So I demand a merch line, number one. And
I do have a merch, like a very
Tell
basic...
me about it. Well, we should talk about it at the end, but go ahead and throw it in now because I have more.
I have like 3. I mean, I've sold like 10 shirts. I mean, it's not like a big operation. People, I don't make money off of this stuff. It's just like, hey, I make my own shirts. Sometimes I like this design or this message.
Watch PBD and how he does it, and you got to do it.
I mean, they're pros.
But you got to do it. PBD doesn't actually even take ads. He doesn't do ads. There's AdSense.
PBD doesn't do ads?
There's no ads.
I did not know
He never reads ads. Never.
Wow.
There's AdSense dollars.
Right.
I don't know how he.
Well, I think PBD is independently wealthy with his business stuff.
But he can't lose his ass. I mean, he makes money off of his show. He monetizes it, but the large part of that is the merch.
And I think that's maybe why he could talk to whoever he wants, right? There's not a lot of limitation in terms of the guests. I've seen a lot of different guests on the PBD podcast. Yeah. And you can criticize PBD for being whatever, but you can't argue against him platforming people from all spectrums.
No, it's Netanyahu to Nick Fuentes.
Right, because he got a lot of for the Netanyahu interview, which I get. But he also brought on Nick Fuentes. So his audience can hear both.
Yeah, I mean, arguably both are scary, but that's not the point. That's not the point. I would do both of those interviews if I was able to get, I don't know about Nick Fuentes, but that's different.
What if you end up liking Nick Fuentes? That's great.
Honey, Nick Fuentes.
I don't know him, for the record. I've never spoken to him.
I don't know him either, but I do know that one of my top concerns, and I think you and I touched on this a little bit, I can't remember. Oh my God, I've had these conversations. One of my top concerns about the whole, like, white people bad, your ancestors did this to me, is that these kids are going to puke that right back up and they're going to lean into the narrative that's like, no, those black people and those brown people and they're taking your country. And they're going to be far more susceptible to that narrative of like white nationalism, blah, 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 that if you do that. Whereas instead, if you turn around and you say, hey, you know what? This is what it means to be a good person.
Yeah.
There is not, nobody has a monopoly on evil and nobody has a monopoly on goodness. That is just very dangerous. It scares the shit out of me. It scares me as much as the Groypers or whatever they're called and Antifa. Like, same, different sides, same coin.
Right. And the extremists are always going to be there. And then for me, as a government, you should figure out, okay, how do we encourage people not to go to the extremes, right? How do you get people to just chill in the middle, right? Because then I think Nick Fuentes is a byproduct of some deep rot in this country.
100%.
He's not responsible for the rot.
Nope.
He's there. And that's the same on the other side, too. Those people are there for a reason. And people say this about Trump, too, the anti-Trump people. They're like, how could we get this fascist, blah, blah, blah. Here, it's like, well, if you look at the time before, you had Obama coming in and he basically bailed out the banks. He let all the homes foreclose.
It's all the same shit.
Yeah, so it's like,
there's
of course.
no difference. He just tells you what he's doing. this like, oh, Trump got Kimmel fired, which I actually don't think is the truth. I happen to know people that are like, he was with King Charles and he didn't actually know anything, but he posted the thing. And you know how Trump is. Trump will be like, yeah, you're fired, Kimmel.
Yeah.
Whereas Obama's like, hey, can you fire Roseanne? That's all the same.
Yeah.
They're all the same. It's like bunker shorts. I need to get you a few more. I want to get you. I was going off piece. Okay. Do you want? These are your choices: tampon, white bread.
I'm definitely not the person to talk. I mean, I've done
an incredible mini documentary about tampons.
And because I learned from somebody who is digging into it all the time. I'm not sure if I'm the best purveyor of tampon. I mean, I think the thing about tampons, what I learned, I was curious about it because it's a human thing. It's not a women's thing.
Or half the world.
Right. It's like if you care about people, you should care about this. And that's why I was so interested in it. I said, I can't believe.
Wife, your daughter, your sister, your mother, your friggin', do you want to have a baby? I mean.
Right. It's like, I can't believe they're doing this and putting it inside the body. All of these chemicals in the tampon. It's not like if you look back in the days, there's like a couple ingredients. It's like cotton, boom. And then now there's just all kinds of like titanium dioxide, all this that's going in there. And that's, imagine, I mean, just not even topically, but that's in you. Because I learned about it through the toxic shock syndrome. And then once again, this corporate kind of messaging of, oh, you need to just watch how long you put it in there. That puts the responsibility onto you
100%.
versus acknowledging that, no, any time in the body is bad. Because I've heard of cases of people getting toxic shock when it's not in there for a very long time. It's just people's reactions are different. People's bodies are different. And I think we should maximize. Right now, what they're maximizing, it's always profit over people. If people take, that's what's going on. Profit over people in all situations, right? Yeah. They're saying, hey, how do we make this tampon for cheaper? How do we make it last longer? How do we, keep it like for the food? How do we keep it more shelf stable? This is different. But for tampons, how do we make this as cheap as possible and not, necessarily like kill them right away, right? It that's pretty much the only thing that corporations care about. It's like, can we make this cheaper? Is it going to kill somebody right away? No? Okay, let's do it. Mm-hmm. And then over a long period of time, now we've learned of the health effects. And I was talking to the lady, Melissa, and she had a whole collection of tampons that was from, now all the way to 10 years ago. And you could see the differences in the color. And I was asking, she's like, do you notice how now it's more white? And I'm like, why? Yeah, why is that? Well, she says, it looks better.
It looks better.
They bleached it. It looks better. Because before it used kind of like the color was kind of this off-white color. It doesn't look as good. Consumers won't like it as much, supposedly.
It looks better.
It looks better.
Got it.
And she was telling me about how, then the corporations, you see, if you go to the wall in CVS, it looks like there's thousands, or not tons, but tens of choices. 50 choices. But then if you boil it down, it's 3 companies that own everything.
Oh, yeah.
And the labeling isn't accurate.
It's all the same.
It's all the same.
It all goes back to, people can do their own homework, but the same companies own the food companies, the pharma companies, the insurance companies. And what's crazy is that when you look at the 3 companies, these 2 companies own that company, these 2 companies own that company, and these 2 companies own that company. One company.
Exactly.
That owns the controlling shares.
And it's the disclosure. You need to tell people need to be, it's the same with fluoride, right? There needs to be informed consent. You can't just inject fluoride into the water supply because people don't have a choice.
Medicating the entire
country. And it's before only 3 states. I found only 3 states require tampon manufacturers disclose the ingredients on the packaging because it's not known as a food. You're not required to. It's known as like, a medical device.
It's actually more dangerous though, because when you don't ingest it, your body's natural detoxification processes are not engaged. They're bypassed.
Right. So in many cases, we don't even know what's in it.
Yep.
And that's the part where I'm at least trying to get the disclosure out there. It's like, I don't have the power personally to, tell a corporation what to do. Nope. Right. But what I can do is find out information and give it to people. And so then therefore they can make a decision. And
vote with their dollars.
That's the first step. Exactly.
Yeah. They can vote with their dollars. And that's what we need to do. And that's why knowledge is power. Okay. You get a couple more choices. How much time do I have with you? Oh, I have 1:30. You got time for me? You good?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. I want to do a few more health ones. Do you want white bread is as bad as smoking? These are all your videos.
Why?
Do you want plastic bags? Or do you want... Oh, no, I want this one.
Okay.
Never mind. I'm wiping out your choices. I learned about this on your frickin' channel, and I should have been way ahead of the game. Big Food is working to make food that can bypass GLP-1 pathways.
Oh, man, this is going to be the biggest...
And essentially...
Goliath versus Goliath. Big Food versus Big Pharma, right? Because they both want...
Godzilla versus Kong.
They both want to make money, right? So GLP-1 drugs are going to reduce your appetite, right?
This is not out there, by the way. It's very hard to find information on this. After you did this, I think the New York Times Magazine did sort of a piece on it.
They probably debunked it and saying I was...
No, they actually did not.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, keep going.
So GLP-1 drugs, right? The Ozempics, how they work is by reducing or suppressing your appetite, right? So you eat less. Now that obviously is going to have an impact on how much food people buy. So food manufacturers are like, no, this isn't good for us. We want to make people buy more food. So then how do we design food that people will eat even on those drugs? Now, they're not explicitly stating that we're going to try to still make people fat. That's not what they're trying to do. But what they're trying to do is optimize their food where people, even on those drugs, will eat them.
Yep. And
what are we going to get from that? So there's the company name is called Matson, right? They do all of this like secretive food experimentation. They can unlock like the flavor profiles that your brain didn't even know. I mean, it's like cigarettes. It's basically cigarettes, that industry now being transplanted onto food. And historically, I think you probably know this, right?
1980s, yeah.
1980s, Philip Morris, they bought Nabisco. So basically, they took the exact same playbook and then now applied it to food. That's why food over the years has gotten way more addictive. Like I can't open a bag of Doritos without finishing the bag of Doritos. And that is by design.
It's crazy. They mess with everything from if the chip's more crunchy messing with the salt molecule so it targets the
more
bliss
sugar
point. Yep.
And this is just so diabolical is because first I don't like the idea of Ozempic as a weight loss solution just because I think it has a lot of side effects that we don't even know about yet. There are some that we already know about, right, with the bone density loss and things like that.
There's a lot of that.
But there's many that we don't know.
Here's the game, though, because I've had this fight probably more than most. And what they tell you, these drugs have been around for 20 years. Yeah, and that's where you got all the shit in the side of the box from. I mean, you got new ones every day. You're like, somebody's going spontaneously blind. It's like, what? Because you have GLP-1 receptors throughout the entire body. We don't know what this looks like in a 6-year-old or 12-year-old.
And they're recommending it for children. That is another big thing with the Ozempic is that they're saying children should also take it. But hold on a second.
Front line of defense, yeah.
They're young. They can, you should be able to apply more natural, like, solutions, dietary changes, right? Exercise, these types of things. You're not saying because I've heard doctors talk about this and hey, we need to meet the patients where they're at, right? I understand that people aren't going to do those things, but those are for adults, chronic issues. This is the only thing for them.
Also,
should not be the first thing they recommend.
No, it shouldn't be the first thing they recommend. I agree with you. Here's the other thing: this dose is monster. And it's the dose that makes it particularly nefarious. Whereas I've had quite a few people sit down with me and say, listen, if we microdose this, we get great results. We can work to break the addiction. We can get people, the weight starts coming off. They start to feel motivated. And it's like, well, then what's the matter? Well, here's the problem. It's compounding pharmacies that have to make it so it can be microdosed. And again, you need to talk to Brigham Bueller. You will love him. He talks all about why it has to be this huge dose, and it's because they make more money, they get reimbursed more, that's what they've patented, blah, blah, blah. So I've now gotten to a point where it's like, I personally think shouldn't be the first line of defense. I think you got to do a cost-benefit analysis. If you're morbidly obese, if you've got a gazillion comorbidities, if you're on a fistful of drugs, if you're addicted to these things, I would love to turn to psychedelics first. It's not currently an option. If you microdosed it for a person like that, where you weigh out the cost and benefits with your doctor, you could get me there. But
all the incentives are screwed because you basically have this triangle. The government is on top. You have the food industry, and then you have the pharmaceutical industry. And the food industry is paying is lobbying the government to relax all of the rules around food safety and everything like that with the GRAS certification. Basically, you just self-certify where regardless of
generally recognized as safe.
Generally recognized as safe is basically the company saying we did our own study and we think it's good.
It's all good here. Yeah, nothing.
And so they're lobbying. So now you're making people sick. The other side of the triangle, we can come in and we can cure this, and now we can make money both sides. And then the government is also in bed with big pharma. So that's
100%.
why you have to separate these two things. You have to get rid of this commingling between big corporation and the government.
Everyone would agree. But then in order to make sure Kennedy looks like the devil, they just go down the vaccine rabbit hole again. And I sometimes I want to say, there's a journalist that I really like, and I'm not going to say her name because I don't want to put her on the spot. But I saw a segment of hers and she's like, he's crazy. This is settled science. And I reached out and I was like, can we talk offline? Because it's not. And I think that you're somehow getting caught in this red herring. If you look at what he's actually done with regard to vaccine science as head of HHS, he took the COVID shot off the schedule for kids. You could still get it.
And that shot is messed up, by the way.
But there's a problem
with that shot. And I was actually,
Do you have a personal?
I can't talk about it.
Okay.
I have an idea. I can't talk about it. But
Yeah.
I can say that I worked for a big pharma back in the I was consulting, and I've told this story before. And I actually have the actual slide to prove it, but I can't release it to the public.
That's crazy. Because
what
NDA?
because what we worked on for this company that's going to be unnamed is that we did a inventory analysis in 2022. This was after the first dose was given in 2021. And we did a whole analysis and we said, well, you're going to have hundreds of millions of dollars of inventory left at the end of the year. This is on a slide. And what happened after that is when they started to recommend more doses. I'm not sure exactly the conversation I'm not in the boardroom. I just was on a low team that did. I was a supply chain guy. So all we were doing is a supply chain analysis of all of the products. And this was one of them. I can't name the company or the product, but we said, hey, you're going to have a lot left over. Even the manufacturing sites we were talking to, it's like, hey, are we going to turn off the spigot here at some point? And so we made the report and you saw what happened after that. And this is where I just said, I can't do this work anymore. I literally cannot be here.
I get it. You know what's interesting about that one is that if you just look at it objectively, okay, if you're overweight, if you have an autoimmune condition, if you're over a certain age, then, is it recommended? Maybe. Seems like I don't talk to your doctor. You can make a case 100%. I haven't really paid attention to that because it's like your body, your choice, right? But we do know unquestionably that healthy people without an autoimmune condition who are not morbidly obese, that are under a certain age, don't need this. The mortality rate is infinitesimal right now. It is less than the vaccine injury rate for healthy young people.
And I don't want to keep relitigating COVID. And people are like, you keep, move on from this kind of stuff.
That's not the point.
Right. And
the
I'm
point is when he takes it off the schedule for kids and you go bananas, you're no longer looking at the data objectively. It's contraindicated for children who are healthy, not overweight, no autoimmune condition. This is what the science actually says.
And we need to get back to that transparency where we actually earn people's trust back. And I mean, not we, because I'm not a part of that. I mean, the people in power,
companies,
they need to start righting the ship or else the society is going to fragment in all kinds of different directions, which is what I'm trying to not happen.
You got to hold strong,
like
babe.
Right?
You're going to have to hold real strong because unless you are totally partisan, you are going to it's like, you're going to piss them all off. Dave Smith said this to me.
Yeah.
He's like, and I thought when I was voting for Trump, because no new wars, the right loved me. Now I'm criticizing Trump, the right hates me.
Yeah.
And somehow he prevails. And somehow people really like Dave Smith. I really like Dave Smith. He and I don't see eye to eye on everything. I'm sure he doesn't see it. But we have a lovely interaction, mutually respectful. His wife is adorable. He's Dave Smith, doing great. So I look at a guy like Dave Smith who's like, I stand alone, and I'm a libertarian. You're like, whoa.
And I think there's going to be more if you see that start to work. And this is one of the news companies I contribute to, Breaking Points. I don't know if you're familiar.
I do know. I do watch it. That's the one with Crystal Ball, right?
Crystal Ball, Saga, and Jetty. And what I thought that was really great that they did that, I think can open a lot of doors for people and from the psychological perspective is they were mainstream media, right? She came out of MSNBC. He was a White House correspondent. Then they worked together at The Hill, which is another establishment legacy publication. And they said, nope, we're going to do our own thing now.
Right.
And that's going to be the pinnacle of success. It's not going to be trying to get your foot in the door at CNN or New York Times.
She doesn't take money.
No, they don't take any money.
Yeah, she doesn't take. What's interesting is we did a Her Take show with her before Charlie was assassinated. And obviously, I'm sure she hates my guts, but she was perfectly respectful. And I don't know if she would hate your guts. I don't know her personally. Maybe. I'm sure she probably does because she's so far left. But we ended up having, of course, her and Anna bashed Israel the entire time. They were on Israel, this, that. And that's a shame you actually wouldn't get to see it because I said, listen, I respect you as a journalist. I respect your opinion. I can't push back on these things because I don't know if what you're telling me is true. That's upsetting. But I said, what I really respect about you is that I know you don't take money. So when I want the other side, I'm going to listen to you.
Right.
Even if I'm like, I think she's crazy about this. I don't agree with her about that. She doesn't know this part. I know that this is what she believes because she does not take money. So when I want a different point of view, I know I can trust her. And I told her that. I was like, I respect the hell out of you for this.
100%. That's what I look for in terms of like, if I want to engage with you or not, is whether or not you're going to lie to my face. If you're going to lie to my face, I don't think I want to talk to you.
What side you're on.
But I love because I learned so much from having conversations with people I don't agree with, because that's when you actually learn. Because when you're in this kind of like echo chamber bubble and you're just kind of gassing each other up, it's not that interesting, at least to me. It's not interesting.
Oh my gosh. You got to do it. I couldn't agree with you more, but I've learned a few hard lessons, and here's what I'll tell you.
Okay. I'm learning.
Although, by the way, I was given these lessons by people far more successful than me, and I had to learn the hard way. Okay. When you go into those conversations, it's imperative you go into them in a format with individuals that go in good faith.
Mm-hmm. That's the really important
the mistake
thing
that I've made several times in a row now. And it's probably, if we went back 3 months, I don't think you get as dragged for talking to me. And, it was my attempt to go on CNN and try to explain the other side. By the way, we'd go on Fox and try to explain. Hannity would be like, why is this happening in California?
Yeah.
And I would say, well, here's what, all my friends from California are on the left. And I'd say, well, with Sean, here's what they're seeing. Do you realize I went to Turning Point and I was interviewed and they said, what do we need to do to get more women to be conservative? I said, you're going to have to come to the table on reproductive rights. You think Charlie Kirk is gave me they asked me, it was posted on Fox. I think TPUSA posted it. They're going to let me do it. CNN was like, oh my God, racist. Don't let her talk. Racist. She's a racist. Abby Phillip went on for weeks. Jillian Michaels is racist. She's a racist. Everybody. And do you realize I could not even complete the conversation. The point that I was trying to get to was that while you had all of this evil, you also had more good guys.
Mm-hmm.
And why don't we focus on that as well? And it's that it was silence, shut up, racist, mischaracterize the conversation, you're trying to relitigate slavery in America, which I said very clearly, this is thousands of years old, end quote. No, I'm not, end quote. Like, so you have to be so careful. And then when I went on Piers, and I love Piers. He totally had my back. He had Riley Gaines' back, but I'll say it again on my show, because I've said it on several others, that when I went on thinking, and you and I talked about this on your show, hold on, here's my olive branch, right? Like, let me own some things for my side. This shouldn't have happened. That shouldn't have happened. This shouldn't have happened. There was no like, and here's my olive branch,
because that's not
friend.
That is not the
racist
show.
Bigot, transphobe, racist bigot. Exactly. So I think what's really important for people like you and for people like me is that we did it on your show. We're doing it on my show. You got a good faith person who truly wants unity with like-minded people, not crazies who call for violence on any side or radical ideologies on any side. And we have to be brave enough. I will have no hate for talking to you, by the way. Zero. You have clearly gotten quite a ton for talking to me.
But I don't care. It doesn't bother me, though.
You gotta be brave enough to do that. And, you are.
And I try, I mean, those shows, I don't really have an interest. That's not where I want my career to go, to become some kind of arguing, talking head kind of person. Like, I love doing information-based
goes nowhere,
pieces,
babe.
right?
Nowhere good.
Like, that's my favorite things to do is like, oh, I just found out this piece of information. I'm going to put together what I think is an interesting video for people. And I try to stay out of those kinds of like culture war type of things because they're not very unifying. I think they're important to talk about for some people. That's just not my forte. It's not what I'm interested
and there's no reason. Don't die on that sword unless you're compelled. I was compelled with some of the trans issues because I have a unique understanding with regard to the science. I own a sports medicine facility.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I work with so many different sports medicine doctors. It's not fair. You got to be able to say, I get it. It's a problem. I understand the empathetic piece and the inclusion piece, but there's also a fairness piece. In some sports, there's a safety piece. I felt like I had to say it. With kids that you transition, I read the CAS report. I read the WPATH files. There are some significant health concerns that you want to point out and massive discrepancies in manipulated data. So I felt like I got to do this. I know this. I have the ability to do this. I have doctors that I talk to. By the way, James, if I thought you want to transition as an adult, who cares? Even Charlie Kirk was like, you're an adult, do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I would hope something different for you. But, I would hope that you would learn to love the body you're in. This is his religion. I couldn't care less what you do. As a child, the concern is brain development, bone development. Those are the castration, complete sexual dysfunction permanently. And they manipulate the data. So I'll give you an example. They're like, no, this is reversible. That's a lie. It's reversible in kids that are that engage in puberty at like 6. So they start these medications in very, very small amounts to try to delay it, not stop it completely at a certain age in puberty. And they lie and misrepresent that. Well, why are you lying and misrepresenting that? If it's not at all a concern. That's the other thing. It's like, why are you lying about it? When they start to lie about it.
And who's funding these scientific
it's a multi-billion dollar
that would be the first
business.
question I have.
Yeah, but it's a multi-billion-dollar business, and the compound annual growth rate is obscene. I actually interviewed someone about this. It's called Transgender Inc. I'll send you the clip. A gay guy, by the way. And it's diabolical, and they're patients for life.
And that's what that's exactly right. That's where I've done a piece on this because I was talking to a lesbian rights activist, and she was explaining this to me and how this has now become a big industry.
Oh, huge.
Right? And that's when I say, okay, this is no longer just cultural. This is now business coming in, trying to convince people to do something that's against their will. And I think this part of the trans issue is like both parties really amplify it,
Oh,
right?
it's a political
Democrats,
football.
Exactly, because they don't want to talk about economic issues. They're like, let's get people arguing over this, which is
100%.
a thing that you can argue about it until you're blue in the face. There's going to be no
100%.
solution, right? I mean, for me, the sports thing is very clear, right? Either there's a difference or you just have one league. Then if you say there's no difference, one league.
Are
One league.
like, now they're like, okay, I kind of see it's unfair, but you're a bigot and transphobe, friggin' hate monger, and I'm like, but you just said it's not fair,
right? And I have so this is where it relates to all these things, and this is what I love. I don't want to argue with people on Piers Morgan. Like, I want to look into stuff like,
I love Piers, as I said, but holy shit, man. I don't know. I don't want to tell you not to do something. Awesome people go on there, and it's totally fantastic for Dave Smith does it so well. Kaizen Asiadu does it so well. Maybe it's just me. I this last go around, I just thought like life is too short for this shit.
Unless you enjoy it, right? Some people love, getting in that cage match, right? That's for them. I don't love that, and I'm not that good at it, to be honest with you, because I'm chill. I don't want to get into an argument with people on television. That's just not what I think is fun to do.
Yeah.
So I'm just not going to do it. I would rather look into, this is a new one that I have coming out soon, which is like looking into the diaper industry and how, I don't know if you've seen this.
I have not.
But the data
have not.
suggested, so the data, you could see the average potty training age has increased from 1.5 years to 3 over the last 50 years.
I have noticed that kids are still potty training at like 2.5.
3 years. And there's size 8 diapers. Those are for those are grown adults, basically. And so I was talking to this expert on what they call elimination communication expert, basically a potty training expert.
Okay.
And what happened was when Pampers first came out in the 1950s, parents weren't buying it because they didn't feel like these disposable diapers were good. They were causing, diaper rashes and things like that. They were like the cloth diapers before, but they wanted to sell more Pampers. So they basically commissioned a scientific study to say, we need to wait for readiness. This is what they call wait for readiness. Wait till your child is ready and then potty train them. And this has increased the age more and more over the years, because what this lady who was talking, Andrea Olson, elimination communications expert, people should look her up. Don't take it from me. But she's saying you can basically potty train right out the gate. You don't need to wait for anything. You're in with the baby, and then you kind of just take it. It's like the same as potty training a dog. Like my dog potty trained really quick because I basically every hour I'm taking him out outside, and that's the same for a baby as well. You can monitor, like they can be fussy. Just take them to the toilet, and therefore they learn it right away. So as soon as they're able to actually they're able to move themselves to the toilet, they're basically already potty trained. But this has been corrupted by the science saying that, oh no, we need to wait. And she's actually saying this is causing developmental issues, and that you don't want other people like watching you when you're pottying. But now when kids are like 1 or 2, they're like cognizant, and now you have somebody watching over them when they're trying to go potty.
Of course.
And that's causing anxiety and all this other stuff.
Of course. I didn't even think about that.
Right. So this is the type of stuff, it's like, this is clearly not good. And it's because corporations wanted to make more money. And so now they've co-opted the science.
And sell you diapers for twice as long.
Exactly. So now the diaper sales is way, way up. And you have people now 3-4 years old still in diapers. And it's because they were told by people, and I'm sure, and parents,
parenting.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. And I'm sure parents want the best for their kids. They're like,
100%.
Right. They're not doing it out of, malice.
Trying to be the good guy, actually. I'm a gentle parent. Good James, I think you're fantastic because I've told you 1,000 times.
And you're also fantastic as well. Because honestly,
careful kid. I appreciate
because I really don't engage in a lot of, I'm like a lone wolf. I not because I want to be, but because I don't trust a lot of people. And I just thought, okay, Jillian looks like a person who is engaging in the issues in good faith. I may not agree with her on this Israel issue, but people are like, you're paid for by AIPAC. I don't think you're paid for by AIPAC.
Paid for by AIPAC? Okay, what would be... How is that even conceivable, paid for by AIPAC? With what? But with my...
So I think she's pro-Israel because she's pro-Israel.
I'm not even... do you really
it's okay.
I haven't even said that I'm pro-Israel. I've said that I lean more towards Israel over Hamas. That's about it. Outside of that, do you see me? If I was taking money from APEC, I'm pretty sure I'd be able to fight you aggressively.
I would see
on
more.
all of these points.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'd be able to Ben Shapiro this conversation like nobody's business. Benjamin Netanyahu funded Hamas. I'd be like, James, you're wrong.
Yeah.
I would like, brrr.
Yeah, you would be better trained.
I'm
actually.
like, I have no idea what the you're talking about. Like, it's just literally, taking. Not only am I not taking money from APEC, I am not out there engaging in this conversation willingly. In other words, like in a debate format. I'm bringing people on to interview them. It like from both sides. Why would I have Dave Smith on numerous times to kick my ass on the subject matter? Like, really? I don't know.
No, I mean, I don't give any sort of credence
Why
to
would I
this.
hire Anna Kasparian as the frickin' co-host of Her Take if I was paid by APEC?
Well, now, so because of the conversation yesterday, I am also now part of the controlled opposition. I'm also sold out, blah, blah, blah. Even though, I mean...
But do you see how it works? Now you get a taste of it. Now you're a part of the controlled... Do you see how ridiculous this is? Could anything be farther from the truth that you're part of the controlled opposition? That's how insane. It's like, quiet. You want to talk about Israel quieting people? How about that?
Well, anytime you like deviate and just have engaging in normal conversation with somebody who is different, then you're just like, oh, you're on the other side now.
I could literally point you to a million shows that I have done where they just like bash. Has no one seen every single
No, they just see clips
episode
That's what happens
of
nowadays.
Her Take is Anna raging about Israel.
Right.
No matter what we talk about, it all comes back to Israel. Like there was one on Palantir, and there's a new technology about after the shooting of the kids at the Catholic school, scraping the web and looking for things where you could say, you did a segment on this. It was fantastic.
Oh, carbon. Yeah, they do. Which
well,
one?
No, you're right. It wasn't Palantir. It's a new tech. The guy was on Fox, and he's like, right. The pre-crime. Yes. And we're looking for anything on the web. We're going to scrape the web, and we're looking for anything that could suggest, like, let's say if this was good, and I think it's important to say, let's present both sides, right? If it was good, we would have caught Tyler Robinson on his Discord before he was able to kill Charlie Kirk. Okay. If it's bad, what are the consequences of this pre-crime, right? Like, what do you have this Minority Report? You're going after people before they've committed a crime? What are you going to do? How are you going to punish them? Here are the concerns. I would present both sides of it, which I tried to do and say, like, well, there's always the writing on the wall with the Ted Kaczynskis. Is there any universe where this could be beneficial? They already have all of our data. This is before Israel came up. Then all of a sudden, Anna and Amy bring it all the way back around to the guy is Israeli. And therefore, and I was like,
well, he is Israeli.
I get it.
Yeah.
But my point is, can you not just be upset about it because you're upset about it? Peter Thiel's not Israeli and he owns Palantir. He's Jewish. I understand. Yeah. But there's a lot of people that are, J.D. Vance is not Jewish and he's Peter Thiel's guy. My point is that if you're going to be alarmed about this, can't we just be alarmed about it without being like, it's Israel? Yeah. Like, that's where every single show, and I didn't say a word.
And that's,
I didn't say a word. I let them. I didn't say a word. Every show somehow found its way back to, and that's where it's like.
And there's a lot. And I tried myself. I'm like, because I grew my platform a lot after October 7th. So there was a very, there's a lot of high possibility that I could have just done that. But I said, I don't want to be just reporting on Israel-Palestine. That's not the sole interest that I have. So that's why I started digging into the homeless stuff. I started digging into science and all these things, like the corporation, because that's what I was doing before October 7th. I'm like, this is the stuff that's still interesting to me. Yes, I will report on the stuff that I see that's concerning when, we have infringement on our rights, these BDS laws, which I think make no sense. Like, that's okay to talk about. When you say, hey, we're going to infringe your First Amendment rights on behalf of Israel, that, of course, I'm going to be out there shouting from the rooftop saying this is not acceptable. We should be able to be Americans still.
No, but no one, who in the world thinks it is? I don't know. Here's the one thing that's interesting, and I'm a little upset that this is touching your life, is that you're starting to see now how crazy it is. Now you're compromised.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's okay.
That's how insane it is. So when they're like, oh, she takes money from APEC. That is the
that is your defense. It's like you would be much better trained.
Find me a video where I am like,
you wouldn't say, I don't understand this issue.
The Gad Sad, the Ben Shapiro, the Batya Ungar Sargon, the Barry Weiss. I even pushed back on Barry Weiss. And I was like, Barry, here's a video of Netanyahu that surfaced saying, like, we're going to kind of fudge this whole, this, what was it, the thing about the expansion of Israel?
The Oslo Accords. Yeah.
Why in the name of God would I bring that up? And like, Anna didn't even know about that. Anna's like, I didn't know about that, which is shocking. So I don't know, sweetie. I don't know. But I think it's important that intelligent, well-intentioned people continue to have conversations and can do their own homework and can sniff through the bullshit and take the time to sniff through the bullshit. And that is what you do better than anyone. Tell me.
That's nice of you to say. I think there's a lot of people who do it a lot better than I do. I just try to do what I can. And
you do a great job.
And that's all I can do.
Tell me I know, but tell everybody, where do we get more? How do we find you? And where is the merch that you're going to start selling so that you can maintain your integrity and still eat?
Well, you can go to any social media platform, whatever is your favorite one. The handle is all the same. I don't know if the camera, but I'm just going to look at you. At 5149.
Maybe this guy.
Yes. At 5149, James Lee spelled with an I. So 5149 James Lee. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok still. That's getting a little sketchier now because there's a lot of things you can't say there.
Oh, no. My next guest, the next show, Kaizen Asidu. Have you seen what he posted on every single one of his videos? Is like inappropriate content.
Yeah, community violation.
They banned me. I'm interrupting you. They banned me for one clip with the doctor talking about ivermectin having won a Nobel Prize.
Big no.
Okay, start it over. James Lee, 554. Do it again.
5149 James Lee. So if you want longer pieces, I do those on YouTube. So if you want more in depth versus 1 to 3 minute pieces, those are going to be on the short form platforms because I try to make content for everybody. Right? You have 1 to 3 minutes. I have something for you. If you want to dig into a longer 5 to 10 minutes, I have something for you there. I'm also you were on the show, started a new show called The Today Show, which is hopefully going to be a new kind of conversational platform where we can come together and talk about current events, politics, whatever it might be, but really from an independent perspective. And I think my hope for it's going to become the new Today Show. It's going to be all the ish that the Today Show won't cover.
I hope so.
And
we need that.
And so I mean, I'm going to continue to do what I do. I'm passionate about looking into information-based, pieces. Like if you go to my YouTube, all of it is heavily researched. At the very least, I'm not just stating something. I'm going to show you where I got it from, so then you could look for yourself. Because that's my goal, is that I can't inform everybody of anything, of everything, but what I can do is hopefully inspire a few people to say, hey, I'm interested in this. I'm going to look more into it. Maybe they share it with other people, right? I love it when people are in the comments adding more stuff like, hey, did you know about this? Did you know about that? And then other people in the comment section can then become more informed because I can't possibly cover everything in my video, right? Especially if it's 1 to 3 minutes long. And then I love that people are adding more to it in the comment section, which then hopefully would spur more responses. That's why I love TikTok so much. It's kind of a shame that, the censorship that's been happening on there, because you can make like response videos to comments and things like that. And it becomes like kind of a more, I guess, an organic conversation. It could really spark like a community. And I think that is why the government is somewhat wanting to control it more, right?
It started very early for me there. It was like a mob that went after me because I made a video about calories. And I was like,
oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no,
like
calories.
It's thermodynamics. The first law of thermodynamics, actually. But
not all calories are made. Yeah. I don't know what the video you're talking about, but not all calories are made the same. Like, it's...
Well, sort
Are they? Is that what your position was? They're the same?
Okay, so real quick.
Okay,
and
so
then
let's-
I'll
yeah.
let you go. If I said to you, a pound of feathers, does that weigh more than a pound of diamonds?
No, same.
Okay. So a calorie is a unit of energy.
Mhm.
Now, if you look at the food,
Right.
food has energy and it has nutrients.
Okay. So that's...
So here's the game, right? So you could be there's a great example of something called the Twinkie diet, where this guy ate nothing but crapola
Mhm.
and lost a ton of weight, and all of his biomarkers improved because he ate less food. Nevertheless, skinny people get cancer and heart disease and diabetes and all the things. Erectile, they get all the things, erectile dysfunction, because there's poison in the food. So where health and weight, there is a Venn diagram, obviously, where these things intersect. You could be skinny and still very sick. But big, small is a calorie game. Now, if you say, hold on, Jill, if I eat these foods, I'm going to burn more calories. Not really. It might take a little more energy to digest certain foods. Certain foods will make you eat more calories. But if I gave you 1,200 calories of Twinkies and 1,200 calories of broccoli and steak, the difference in up, down, if I held you there regardless, if I locked you in a room and that's all you got, your weight
would be the same.
Arguably would
okay. I think
there's good research behind it, and the carbohydrate insulin model of obesity has been debunked by fantastic PhDs in nutrition science, Elaine Norton, Dr. Joseph Munoz.
I'm on the same page.
So I mean, I'm just saying. I of course don't want you to eat Twinkies, but
but I think that's where the big food, like you can make an argument that that's what they would use as a talking point to say all calories are the same. So eat our Snickers, eat our Oreos, this kind of thing.
Well, they're the same with regard to big and small. They're not the same with regard to
But you're going to be able
to
rip through a bag of Twinkies or whatever casing of Snickers. But if you eat like high fiber foods, you're going to get full and you're not going to eat as much.
But what you're saying is if I eat those calories, I'll end up eating more calories.
Correct.
But then it's still a calorie.
It's still a calorie game. But in the end of the day, you need those nutrients to stay healthy.
That's health. But still not big, small.
Right.
That makes sense.
No, I'm 100% with you. And I'm
the
just saying that the
pushback
is that it's an industry talking point would be the calories are the same.
I mean, I've said it for 30 years, 21 of which I've been a public-facing figure, and I've never once taken a penny.
Good for you.
From industry. Not a
That's actually
cent. And even on Biggest Loser.
Yeah, on Biggest Loser, you didn't have any
I didn't make a freaking dime. The show did. And it was a huge war because they'd have these things called integrations, and contractually you had to do them, and I would want to do them.
Right, because you have some kind of
guys, we're chewing gum today.
Yeah.
We're going to Subway. I didn't get a penny of that money, and it was a huge fight. Bob ended up taking a bunch of money for them, and he ended up doing the vast majority of them because I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And they gave Bob like a bunch of extra money because he was willing to play ball.
And that's why I'm sitting here with you, because you are that type of person.
Oh, yeah. Thank you,
Thank you, Jillian, for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Likewise.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And make sure to let me know what guests you want to see on in the future.